thank you again for joining us today. My name is Nathan Rolfe, and I'm the president of the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces and your host for this segment. On behalf of the Tortora Brayda Institute and Association U.S. Cyber Forces, I would like to welcome you to this month's episode of our Cyber Workforce Series, where we speak with cyber professionals about their careers and journeys to help inform others on the diversity of paths within the cybersecurity industry and hopefully support you, the listener, on your own personal cyber career journey. Before we meet this month's guest, I would like to share a little information about the two organizations that make this series possible, the Association U.S. Cyber Forces and the Tortora Brayda Institute. The Association of U.S. Cyber Forces is a nonprofit professional association that provides the voice for cyber professionals who serve in the military, government agencies, industry, and academia on specific cyber issues impacting national security. AUSCF is an advocate for positive change to policies and programs from the local to national that better serve our membership, develop and expand the cyber workforce, proactively address cyberspace threats, and help minimize gaps between the public and private sector cybersecurity efforts. If you'd like to learn more or join AUSCF, please visit our website at www.auscf.org. The Tortora Brayda Institute is a nonpartisan public benefit institute focused on the convergence of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. As these technologies increasingly shape economies, governance, and public trust, their role is to bring together leaders across industry, government, and academia to develop the frameworks, partnerships, and talent needed to ensure that they are adopted responsibly, securely, and with accountability. Through their think tank for partnerships in AI and cybersecurity, they convene global experts to address one of the most urgent challenges of our time: how to build systems that are not only innovative, but trustworthy, resilient, and aligned with social benefit. A critical part of that challenge is workforce readiness. As AI and cybersecurity continue to reshape industries and expand both opportunity and risk, the need for a workforce that is not only skilled, but prepared to operate in an environment defined by complexity, accountability, and digital risk has never been greater. If you are not currently a member of the Institute, we invite you to visit their website at tortorabrayda.org to learn more about how you can engage and contribute to this work. Our Cybersecurity Workforce Series is part of a broader effort to close that gap, bringing together leaders to explore not just skills, but pathways, expectations, and evolving standards of professional responsibility in the space. AUSCF and TBI are excited to partner here because through the series and our broader work, we are focused on building a more prepared, more accountable, and more resilient workforce for the future. During today's discussion, please feel free to drop any questions you have into the chat, and as time allows, we will attempt to weave in answers and make sure we address those questions. These questions and your feedback help directly shape this and our future events. Today's guest is Kelvin Coleman. Kelvin is the Chief Global Cyber Diplomacy Officer with the Cyber Eagle Project. He is formerly an IBM consulting partner and member of the advisory board for the IBM Center for Government Cybersecurity. Previously, he was an executive director at the National Cybersecurity Alliance. A dynamic cybersecurity leader, Kelvin has 2 decades of experience in high-stakes cybersecurity posts at the White House, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the private sector. During his career, he has conducted cybersecurity awareness tours in 49 states, briefing tech giants, local store owners, and politicians alike, including 35 governors. He is recognized for his work forging partnerships between the public and private sectors, developing cybersecurity policy and products, improving national and local cyber threat awareness and readiness, and establishing guidelines for workforce cybersecurity safety. He has collaborated and worked closely with a variety of top government agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, Department of Defense, National Defense Information Sharing and Analysis Center, NSA, and internally with the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Cybersecurity and Communications. He has also worked on the President's National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee during portions of the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations. In the early stages of Obama's first term, Coleman served as a member of the White House National Security Staff, coordinating cybersecurity policy with the intelligence community, as well as state, local, international, and private sector organizations. Kelvin is a proud native son of Blair, South Carolina, and a graduate of the University of South Carolina, Aiken. Kelvin, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Nathan, what a pleasure to be here with you, my friend.
All right, let's just I do this with every interview. Let's just go ahead and start at the beginning. All right, you have a political science and business degree.
Yes.
from hometown of South Carolina. Got to mention it again. You asked me to make sure
Absolutely.
that I like that. How did you get involved in the cyber community with that career path?
A lot of this conversation, to answer that question, I will start with a lot of the conversation today is going to be about people that have been in my path. I will say, Nathan, one of my favorite books is, The Wizard of Oz, right? L. Baum. in this idea that a cast of characters who are different in skill set, experience, background, can actually have a goal together and reach that goal. That's been sort of my life and my start in cybersecurity. And it starts with one of the best supervisors I've ever had in my life. Don't tell Carlo that I said that. But Jenny Mena, who was my supervisor at the Department of Homeland Security when I was in intergovernmental affairs. And this was in the early term of President Obama's term. And the Secretary of Homeland Security at that time was Janet Napolitano, former governor of Arizona. And Jenny got a memo from the secretary's office saying, hey, we really need you all to find out kind of what's happening. And I'm paraphrasing, it wasn't, kind of what's going on at the state level as it relates to cybersecurity. Now, that seems like a weird request today, only because we're so much more advanced and involved as it relates to cybersecurity. But at that time, it still was sort of, people are still trying to understand what we're talking about here. And Jenny comes to me and says, hey, I need you to basically, do a tour of the states and sort of catalog and figure out, kind of what they're doing at the state level so that we can be better coordinated at the national level with them to support and help where they need. And that was literally where my journey started. I did just that, started this tour of going around the country. As you've read, I've been to 49 states, briefed 35 governors, because in every state I may not have met with the governor, but the Homeland Security advisor or the lieutenant governor, someone of that nature. And through that experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better way to dive deep into cybersecurity, because through that experience, I learned so much about not only our country, but the laboratories of the states, right, and how they're doing things. And that was my entry into cybersecurity. Jenny Mena saying to me, go and find out what they're doing at the state level. And it was perhaps one of the best things that could have ever happened to me in my career.
So you really just got thrown into the fire and kind of had to figure it out as you went along. And it sounds like you did an excellent job of doing that.
Literally, right? A lot of questions along the way in talking to governors. And subsequently, throughout that process, I became a known trusted partners to a lot of state government folks, which was really, really a great thing because I'm a country boy from Blair, South Carolina, so I really appreciate state and local government and state and local coordination. And so that was sort of it really appealed to who I am as a person, both personally and professionally. And so, I was thrown in, but it was really a great time. I will say subsequently, when I arrived at the White House, which we may talk about a little bit later on, I was asked to go around and since I had this trusted relationship to go around and speak to governors in a classified setting about cybersecurity and what was happening in their state. And that was another level of just tremendous experience and delight, actually, in working with folks at the state and local level. So yes, I was thrown in, fired right away.
So going back to your Wizard of Oz analogy, you were really showing them what was behind the curtain.
Say again.
You were really showing them what was behind the curtain.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah. At that time, I know states weren't really plugged into what was going on. It was a federal issue. Deal with it. State level actors in warfare kind of situation, and I don't think they were prepared for probably what you presented them. I think a lot of times.
Nathan, what a great example there, because oftentimes, when you think about the Wizard of Oz and pulling back that curtain, probably not as scary as we thought, right? Much more manageable than we believed. And that was the conversation with the governors. Now, to your point, there were some things that, quite frankly, they didn't know, or the Homeland Security advisor that we were able to partner with and inform, again, in a classified setting. But then when it came to solutions, implementation, when it came to how do we go to that next level, it was always a joy, because folks at the state and local level, they're ultimately thinking about the solution almost right away, because they're so close to the constituents and so close to the people there. So you're absolutely right. In that example of the Wizard of Oz, yeah, we pulled back that curtain. It was a little less intimidating for them. And again, we were able to coordinate resources more effectively and more efficiently, which was also a huge perk of the job.
All right. I think you may have already covered it, but I want to kind of bring us back to the now. Your current position, you're with the Cyber Eagle Project. You are the Chief Global Cyber Diplomacy Officer. So as a baseline, because we haven't had someone with that title on here before, what is cyber diplomacy?
It quite literally is what it sounds like. My role is to make sure that we're coordinating and connecting what would be disparate parts of the world, right? Particularly as it relates to governments, because a lot of Cyber Eagles work in our effort. We're in different parts of the world: Central, South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, the United States, of course. And so in that role, in my role, I'm able to bring together the coordination piece, particularly on the international government level. So you think about ambassadors, you think about high-level government ministers, you think about attachés that you're working with. Those are the folks that I deal with almost on a daily basis. That's important because, unfortunately, the historical, sort of traditional global diplomacy that we've depended on through government, right? It's not what it used to be, right? It's probably not as robust as it used to be. And so I think the world at large is still looking for connection. And oftentimes today, that comes through private sector companies, that comes through NGOs, that comes through academic institutions. And that's exactly what I'm doing with Cyber Eagle, to make sure that we're plugged in with that country on a government level, right? To make sure that we are staying ahead of and keeping up with what their laws are and how they're doing things in their country. I think that's very, very important because, again, from a personal perspective, I'm big on respect. I want to make sure when I go to someone's home that I'm respecting their values, what they have for their home. It's the same way as the chief global diplomacy officer for Cyber Eagle. I want to make sure that I'm smoothing the way for Cyber Eagle to have a more enjoyable experience in a particular country, because we're respecting what they have already laid out in terms of laws, in terms of products, in terms of processes, which really, I will say, is a very nice part of my job, because I get to deal with so many different people from around the world.
Now, from what I'm hearing on that one, it sounds like what you've done is taken what you started doing early on with the coordination with the states, and essentially just grown that into the same concept internationally. Is that a pretty accurate assessment?
Nathan, you're really good, my friend. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's the same concept. It really is. And from that experience at the Department of Homeland Security, again, that Jenny sent me off on, I was able to sort of build up the idea that, the United States, right? But we're 50 different states. Because I remember early on in my role there, I would create one solution for 50 states, Nathan, right? Thinking that one solution that's created here in Washington will fit Oregon just as well as it'll fit Texas or Maryland or Florida. Not the case, right? And so what I quickly learned is that you have 50 states, you probably have to do the one solution 50 different ways. And that's okay, right? Because ultimately you want it to be impactful for that particular state. The state of Washington and the state of California, they are different in so many ways. Iowa, Nebraska, I could go on and on, obviously. But what I learned from that is that you can have the one great solution, and that's really great. But you're probably going to have to tailor it to that particular state or make it 50 different ways. And you're exactly right. I carry that into this role with Cyber Eagle. We have a suite of incredible products, processes, people that we can share with different countries. But, dealing with a country in Africa, a little bit different dealing with a country in Eastern Europe, right? Or Central America. These are things that, you're right, I brought from that experience at the Department of Homeland Security dealing with the different states.
This is great because anytime we talk about a cyber career field, it's very technical. You know, everyone's always focused on the technology or the technical knowledge that they need to have. You've really identified the importance of the people aspect of that, which I think often gets forgotten. You know, even though we talk about soft skills and how to deal with leadership, you've gone well beyond that. So this is awesome. So I guess so my next question then for you is because you're dealing with a lot. I mean, you're learning the cultures, you're learning the issues that they're dealing with, whether this is at a state here in the U.S. or it's with another country, and you're having to present to them potentially cybersecurity solutions. Um, I'm not saying that you're not a brilliant man, but how do how do you have all that knowledge? Is there a certain area that you are more focused in, or are you kind of just you're expanded across the entire breadth of cyber knowledge that you have to go into this job?
Listen, you can say I'm not a brilliant guy. I mean, I know what I know, right? But
I'm not
that
say
is
that out loud.
actually, yeah, right. But to answer your question, that's perhaps where my brilliance comes in knowing that I'm perhaps not the smartest guy in the room on OT, right? I want to bring in our, the guy who is really running OT for Cyber Eagles, Sean Boggs. I want to bring him in to have him further explain what we're doing in that area, right? So in that way, I'm able to deal with the different cultures, different people, because I can get them to a certain point, right? That interest and making sure that they understand the importance of going a little further in trying to really comprehend what OT means for their country. And so in that way, I love making sure that I know enough to make sure that, they're coming on board. Someone who folks often look at as who did this really well, Tom Brady, right? I'm not a New England Patriots fan per se. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Long story there. But I'm a big Tom Brady fan. And he often talks about the idea that on any given Sunday, he was not the most athletic quarterback. He will say he didn't have the strongest arm and things of that nature, but he knew who to get the ball to, right? Get him to his playmakers, get the ball to the folks who can really do some damage. And, several Super Bowls later, we see that format works pretty well. I think that's what my role is, right? Making sure I'm lining up my teammates in the right position and making sure that they are built for success, but also getting the various projects and programs to the right people to execute in an excellent way. So yeah, I may not know the most in OT, but I want to be the guy who's the second most knowledgeable, so that I can ask the right questions and make sure I help our clients in the best way possible.
That's great. So really helping, recognizing when a conversation has moved into a more technically focused aspect of it and making sure you're connected with the skis at that point. But you've already reached the skids. You're the chief skid greaser really at this point.
Say again, Nathan, you kind of trailed off.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're the you're helping to connect folks. So really, you're helping to grease the skids for those experts that come in when there's a real technical question. But ultimately, it's going to be down to you've established the relationship and you're handing off to the experts as you need to.
Absolutely. I think anyone who, obviously, cybersecurity, emerging technology, technology is involved in it. But as someone once said, if the challenges that we face was purely about technology, we could have solved this a long time ago, right? As we look at technology, it breaks down into three categories: processes, products, and people. Processes and products, we actually are pretty good at those things. When it comes to people, that's the thing that we need to focus on even more so today. And I think that's something that Eric Schmidt, actually former CEO of Google, Foreign Affairs magazine, which is something I love to read. He talked about this in an article, and I think it was a couple of years ago, April-May issue, where he talked about how technology will define the future of geopolitics, and you will never extract people from that process, right? And I think that's exactly right, as Eric Schmidt described it. People will always be important, notwithstanding what a lot of visionaries are saying, that people may not be as relevant as they are or were. I can't disagree more. People will always be in that mix, and we have to do the very best we can to convene, collaborate, and make sure that we're creating together, in every way, and not look at things so dark and gloomy, right? I know Georgia Douglas Johnson, Harlem Renaissance poet, American poet in the early 1900s, she wrote this poem called Hope. And what she talked about was, the night may seem omnipotent, right? But day must come, right? In other words, we may seem like we're in a very challenging situation right now, but it is going to get better. And that is certainly something I bring to the table as it relates to working with other people.
All right, let's dig in a little bit more into how you kind of grown into the job that you're in.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a chicken and egg question for someone that wants to follow in your footsteps here. Is do you recommend a political science focused major start to learn cybersecurity, or someone that's grown up in the cyber environment start to learn more of the political side of the house to actually get into this engagement that you're in?
Yeah, this is an easy one. I certainly, being cybersecurity, having a degree in cybersecurity and certainly technology is an outstanding accomplishment. I think that probably comes first, right? You got to know the product and the processes. I really believe that. And if you want to be a leader in this area, a world changer, someone who's really impacting the global community, then you have to understand what that means. You have to understand global community players, right? And so and the leaders that I have seen be the most effective in this area, that's exactly what they do. Understand technology for sure. Understand cybersecurity for sure. And they have this understanding of the geopolitical environment. Right now, I'm, cybersecurity, Cyber Eagle. We're dealing and working with a client in Ukraine, SET University, and to understand kind of what they're going through and how they're going through it, and to be able to talk to them about it almost on a weekly basis has been invaluable for us as we build products and processes for that client. And so, if we go right in and not really consider what they've been going through, first of all, that'd be completely disgusting, right? We have to understand that they're going through some challenges right now in terms of the conflict, but also to understand, okay, you're dealing with this today. What do you look like tomorrow? And that is something that you have to understand the geopolitical environment in order to get clients in that direction.
In your role, whether you're dealing with states, you're dealing with other countries, you have to essentially be the smartest guy in the room, or as you said, second smartest guy in the room, to be able to have that conversation. How do you stay abreast of what's changing? Technology is constantly evolving. There's new innovations. Do you have any go-to sources that you use to keep up with what's the state of the art today?
Yeah, I do, but I overall, I will say to folks who are thinking about getting to this area, particularly the emerging area of the global diplomacy of cybersecurity, read, right? Read everything you can get your hands on. Literally at my desk right here, I have Foreign Affairs, I have The Economist, I have the Harvard Business Review, right? I have The Atlantic. Now, I will say, Nathan, I also have Bon Appetit, but you can't just work all the time. You have a little play there. But read and understand kind of what's happening around the world. Again, I'm assuming, this person already has this sort of technical certifications and has studied cybersecurity. Beyond that, what else can you do? Become well-informed on what's happening. I will say this, without judgment, by the way, right? You have to be able to read and understand these things and not necessarily judge them right or wrong and things of that nature. Obviously, they're right and wrong situations, but come at the situation as agnostic as you can, and then start to form judgments, particularly as it relates to technology and cybersecurity in these areas.
That's great. I think making sure that we don't judge, keeping our own biases out of it is very important. So that's a great point to put in there, because what works here doesn't necessarily work other places. All right, you've been at the White House, which is awesome. We're working on advising the president. Had high level positions within DHS, supporting intelligence agencies. These are kind of up there positions. These aren't entry level. Do you have any recommendations for someone that's looking to get to that point? What are some intermediate job roles that they should be looking towards pursuing to help them on that path?
Yeah, Nathan, on a larger, sort of more philosophical level, I'm going to say, if you're a fan of Kipling and his poem "If," he talks about the idea that triumph and disaster, treat those two as imposters just the same, right? In other words, you're trying to get into this area and you're trying to be a chief diplomatic officer at a cyber company, right? Don't get too high, don't get too low, right? The victories are, they're there momentarily. The failures are there momentarily. So as Kipling said, triumph and disaster, treat them the same. Don't get too high, don't get too low. In terms of more tactical, what you can do, certainly one thing that has helped me throughout my career, and I'm going to throw this out there, is something folks may not think about. Go to the conferences, right? Go to the seminars, the symposiums. That's where the experts are. Go to RSA, attend RSA conference. Well, Kelvin, I'm not attached to a company and I'm a student perhaps, and don't have the money. Listen, if a student wrote me today, Nathan, and said, hey, I want to attend Cyber Eagles conference, don't have the funding, I would absolutely take care of that student and make sure that we invited them in, and many other companies would as well. So find those seminars, find those conferences where the experts are, and engage them. You can't be shy at those things. Introduce yourself. Make sure you have a set of questions ready for them. And certainly being able to network. That's still something that's very, very important. Even as technical as our world is becoming, that piece is still very important.
That's great advice, especially about the outreach to the companies as a student. Along those same lines, if someone wanted to set themselves apart from their peers in this area, which are already going to be some high performers, do you have any recommendations for certain educational paths, certifications, or other types of experience that they should seek out to kind of be that discriminator?
Yeah, I know we're closing out here, so I'm going to keep it pretty high level in terms of don't limit yourself. I will tell you, if you are, for example, in my role, I'm regularly up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, not because I want to exercise or, I'm a big yoga guy, not because I'm doing yoga. No, because I'm on a phone call with colleagues in Europe. I'm on a phone call with clients in Africa. So don't limit yourself. Don't come into the game saying what I will and will not do. Of course, according to your morals, ethics, all of that. Putting that aside, in terms of just being able to, be in this area and be effective, you can't limit yourself, and you can't be so closed-minded and narrow-minded as to not want to deal with people. Right? You have to know how to deal with people. You have to be comfortable with that. Different types of people. It can't be intolerable at all. As something Mark Twain said, you're not going to grow if you're narrow-minded. That seems simple, but it's difficult for some people. So coming into this role, you have to have a wide range of interest, curious, and respect for other people.
Awesome. And as you mentioned, we are getting ready to come to the end here.
Yeah.
So this has been a great insight into a very unique aspect of the cyber workforce, the concept of working within the government's kind of behind the scenes and engaging with leadership to solve their problems. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask all of our guests as we get ready to close out. If you could go back to the beginning of your career, is there anything you would do differently, and why?
I would focus more on economics. I would probably even major in that. I think that is, on a very tactical level, that's something that I think will serve folks really, really well in a major way. In terms of on a larger sort of philosophical scale, just meet more people, be more open, and certainly on the international politics level. I think that's very, very important if you're trying to be a global diplomacy officer.
That's okay. Awesome. You had that right at the tip of your tongue, so that must have been something that you thought about more than once.
Exactly right, Nathan.
All right, Kelvin, I want to thank you a lot for being on the episode with us today, sharing your experience with this community. If with your permission, we'd like to go ahead and share your LinkedIn profile. So if anyone that's listening or uses this later that they want to reach out, ask some questions, or looking for some good mentorship, they can be able to get in touch with you. Is that all right?
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Outstanding. All right, and then for those of you that are watching or listening to our discussion today or on the recording, thank you as well. Today's discussion will be posted and available via our YouTube sites at both Tortora Brayda and AUSCF. And as a reminder, the Tortora Brayda Institute and Association U.S. Cyber Forces are committed to reshaping and empowering a diverse collaboration and developing the cyber workforce. And you are the reason why we do what we do. So we hope today's conversation has helped you on your cyber professional development path. And on behalf of Tortora Brayda and AUSCF, thank you. And we look forward to joining you for our next Workforce Series discussion. And thank you again, Kelvin.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Appreciate it.